Welcome back to Talk About It in English. Today, we are going to build an emergency zero translation escape hatch for your brain. Picture this. It is 10 in the morning on a Tuesday. You are standing in the fluorescent-lit office kitchen pouring a cup of coffee, and a coworker turns to you and casually asks, "Hey, busy week?" And you completely freeze. You stand there in awful silence, panicking because your brain is desperately trying to translate a massive, complex paragraph about your stressful projects, your micromanaging boss, and your broken car from your native language into English.
I know exactly how this physical panic feels. Because of my first corporate job overseas, I used to literally just say the word yes to this exact question, and then I would stare blankly at the wall because my brain was buffering trying to translate the phrase overwhelmed by spreadsheets, and my colleagues thought I was the weirdest person in the building.
In the next few minutes, we are going to completely stop you from overthinking and give you a simple 3-step verbal sequence that requires zero translation, guaranteeing you will never be caught speechless at the coffee machine again.
That feeling of freezing is something almost every single language learner experiences, but we rarely talk about why it happens in such a specific, low-stakes environment. You could be perfectly capable of writing a complex email or even giving a presentation that you have prepared for, but the second someone catches you off guard by the espresso machine, all of your English completely vanishes. It feels like someone just pulled the power plug out of your brain.
Exactly. And to fix this, we have to look at the psychology behind that moment of panic. The reason you freeze is not because your English level is too low. It's not because you need to study more vocabulary. You freeze because you fall into what I call the mental translation trap. In that moment, you are trying to act like a highly accurate news reporter of your own life. When your coworker asks how your week is going, your brain immediately starts gathering factual data. You think about the deadline you missed on Monday, the meeting that ran late yesterday, the fact that you did not sleep well last night, and the heavy traffic on your commute this morning.
Right, and once your brain has gathered all those incredibly detailed facts in your native language, your internal translator kicks in. You stand there, looking at your coworker while your internal voice says, "Okay, I need to use the present perfect continuous tense to describe my workload, and I need the specific vocabulary word for a delayed train, and I need to make sure my subject-verb agreement is flawless." And while you are trying to construct this absolute masterpiece of a grammatical sentence, 3 seconds of silence have passed, then 5 seconds, and now it's awkward. The silence itself becomes terrifying.
And the tragic irony of this entire situation is that your native speaker coworker does not care about your facts. They do not want a detailed, historically accurate report of your week. They do not want to know about the spreadsheets or the delayed train. In the culture of English small talk, a question like "busy week" is not a request for data. It's simply a request for a vibe. It's a friendly little ping, like a submarine sending out a sonar signal, just to make a tiny human connection in the middle of the workday.
Learning that cultural difference completely changed my life. I remember a specific moment when a manager asked me how my day was going, and I started giving her a highly detailed breakdown of a software bug I was trying to fix. I could actually see her eyes glaze over. She started slowly backing out of the room. She was just being polite, and I was giving her a technical manual. It was so embarrassing. I realized then that aiming for absolute factual accuracy in casual conversation is actually destroying my fluency. Trying to tell the complete truth was making me a worse communicator.
That is such a powerful realization. When you're A2 or B1 level, your goal in casual small talk should never be to share complex facts. Your goal should be to maintain the rhythm of the conversation. Rhythm is so much more important than accuracy. If you can bounce the conversation back quickly using simple words, you'll sound 100 times more fluent than someone who pauses for 10 seconds to deliver a grammatically flawless paragraph. You do not owe them facts. You just owe them a feeling.
So how do we actually do this? How do we stop the brain from searching for facts and switch over to just delivering a feeling?
We do it by building an emergency escape hatch. We are going to give you pre-packaged zero translation anchor phrases. These are phrases you do not need to construct. You do not need to think about the grammar inside them. You just memorize them as one single block of sound, like a song lyric, and you deploy them automatically the second you hear the trigger question.
I love the idea of an anchor phrase. It's like a safety net. When the panic hits, you don't need to invent anything new. You just reach into your pocket, pull out the anchor, and drop it.
Exactly. So let us look at the first step of our survival sequence. When the coworker asks, "Busy week?" or "How's your week going?" your brain is going to want to say, "Yes, I have been doing many difficult tasks." We are going to stop that thought completely. Instead, you are going to use our first anchor phrase. I want you to listen to the rhythm of this carefully. It's been pretty nonstop.
It's been pretty nonstop. That is such a fantastic, natural phrase. Let us break down exactly why that works so perfectly for a language learner. First of all, it completely avoids complicated grammar tenses. You're just saying, "it's been," which is a very soft, contracted way of saying "it has been." But you do not even need to think about the present perfect tense. Just treat "it's been" as one single sound. It's been.
And then we have the core of the phrase, pretty nonstop. The word pretty here is not about being beautiful. It is an intensifier, meaning quite or fairly. And nonstop is the perfect vibe word. It does not require you to name a single specific task. It does not require you to explain your job. It just paints a universal picture of being busy. Everyone in the world understands the feeling of a non-stop day. By using this phrase, you are agreeing with the coworker. You are validating their question, and you're doing it with a highly native-sounding rhythm.
And the best part is that it is completely safe. It is not too negative, so you don't sound like you're complaining aggressively, but it is honest enough to be relatable. It's been pretty nonstop. Let us talk about the physical delivery of this phrase, because keeping English in your mouth and not just in your head is the whole point of what we do here.
Yes, the physical delivery is crucial. When you panic, your body physically tenses up. Your shoulders rise toward your ears, your breathing becomes shallow, and your jaw locks tight. If you try to speak from that physical state of panic, your voice will sound tight and unnatural. So before we practice this phrase, we need to hack your nervous system.
I want everyone listening to do this with me right now. I want you to physically drop your shoulders, let them sink down away from your ears, take a tiny breath in through your nose right into your stomach, not your chest. Unclench your teeth, let your jaw hang loose for a second. When you say this anchor phrase, I do not want you to push the words out. I want you to imagine the words just effortlessly falling out of your mouth on an exhale.
Let us run the simulation. I am the coworker. We are in the kitchen. The coffee machine is humming in the background. I turn to you and ask the question. I want you to reply out loud wherever you are using our phrase. Ready? Hey, busy week?
Now you say it out loud. It's been pretty nonstop.
Let us do it again. Focus on the linking between the words. Notice how the T in it's and the B in been just melt together. Notice how pretty and nonstop flow right into each other. Try to sound a little tired, a little relaxed. Let's go again. Hey, how's your week going?
Say it out loud. It's been pretty nonstop.
Perfect. That is your first line of defense. But what if you're actually not that busy? What if your week is just completely normal or even slightly boring, and you definitely don't want to start explaining that you have spent the last 3 hours pretending to work while reading articles online? We need a second anchor phrase for a neutral vibe.
For the neutral vibe, there is no better phrase in the English language than this one. Not too bad, just the usual. I genuinely think I have used this phrase 3,000 times in my life. It is the ultimate conversational shield. It gives absolutely zero specific information, but it sounds incredibly friendly and polite.
Let us look at the mechanics of not too bad, just the usual. Again, there is zero complex grammar here. There's not even a verb in the phrase. You're completely bypassing the need to conjugate anything. You're just offering a pleasant rhythmic sound. Not too bad is a classic native speaker understatement. In many English-speaking cultures, particularly British and Australian, and also quite often in America, people avoid extreme positive or negative emotions in casual work settings. If you say, "My week is spectacular and amazing," people will think you're strange. If you say, "My week is a disaster and I hate it," people will feel uncomfortable. "Not too bad" sits right in that perfectly safe, socially acceptable middle ground.
And then adding, just the usual, is the genius part. By saying just the usual, you're essentially telling the coworker, my life is exactly the same as yours. We're just both doing our jobs. Nothing crazy is happening. It creates instant solidarity without requiring any advanced vocabulary. You don't need to look up the word for routine or monotonous. You just say, just the usual.
Let us practice the physical delivery of this neutral anchor. This one requires an even more relaxed physical state. Sometimes it is accompanied by a slight shrug of the shoulders or a small, closed-mouthed smile. It's a very breezy, easy phrase. Let us run the simulation again. You are at the coffee machine. The environment is safe. I look over at you. Hey, busy week?
Reply out loud. Not too bad, just the usual.
Let's try it one more time. Pay attention to the soft T sound at the end of just. Native speakers almost never pronounce the hard T when it is followed by the word the. It is not just the usual. It sounds more like just the usual. The words glide together seamlessly. Let us try again. Hey, how is the week treating you?
Out loud. Not too bad, just the usual.
If you are enjoying this feeling of finally knowing exactly what to say in real life, instead of just memorizing endless grammar charts that abandon you when you panic, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss our weekly speaking survival guides. We want to help you build real confidence, one everyday topic at a time.
So, you have successfully deployed your anchor phrase. You did not freeze, you did not translate a paragraph, you dropped the phrase flawlessly. But right now, you might be realizing there's a second layer to this panic. You just successfully answered the question, but now the spotlight is still on you. You said, it's been pretty nonstop. And now you and your coworker are just looking at each other again. The silence is threatening to return.
This is exactly where most language learners panic for a second time. They think, oh no, I answered the question, but now it is my responsibility to keep the conversation going. I need to think of a new topic. I need to ask them about their current projects. I need to construct another complex sentence. And the brain starts buffering all over again.
We are going to completely eliminate that secondary panic with step 2 of our sequence. Step 2 is called the deflection. The moment you deliver your anchor phrase, your only job is to immediately pass the conversational ball back to the native speaker. You want to deflect the attention off of yourself as quickly as humanly possible. Why? Because as an A2 or B1 learner, speaking is high stress, but listening is low stress. You want to get back into the safe zone of listening.
And there is a psychological secret about native speakers that works to your advantage here. Most people, regardless of the language they speak, genuinely love talking about themselves. They love complaining slightly about their own workload. If you give them the opportunity to talk about their own week, they will gladly take it, and they will think you are a fantastic conversationalist simply because you let them speak.
So, we need a deflection phrase. We need a way to pass the ball back smoothly. You could just say, and you? But that feels a little bit robotic, a little bit like a textbook. We want you to sound natural and engaged. So, we're going to use this specific follow-up phrase. What about you? Surviving the week?
What about you? Surviving the week? Let's analyze why this is the ultimate deflection tool. What about you is the standard pivot. It's casual, much warmer than and you. But the second part, surviving the week, is pure conversational magic. By using the word surviving, you are injecting a tiny bit of humor and empathy into the interaction. You're acknowledging that work can be tiring, and you're checking in on them as a fellow human being.
It's such a great phrase because it requires absolutely no specific knowledge of what their job actually is. Whether they're the CEO of the company or the person who waters the office plants, everybody feels like they're just surviving the week sometimes. It's a universally understood sentiment. And structurally, it's brilliant because it's an open invitation. You're essentially handing them a microphone and saying, "Please, take the stage. Tell me how busy you are so I don't have to speak anymore."
The intonation of this deflection is very important. Because it's a question, your voice needs to naturally rise at the very end, but it should not sound like a serious medical inquiry. It should sound lighthearted. Let's practice the rhythm. Listen to how my voice goes up on the word week. Surviving the week? It almost sounds like a small joke between friends.
Let's practice the physical delivery of the deflection. I want you to imagine making eye contact with the person. You've just given your answer, and now you're tossing the ball back. Give a slight, friendly nod as you ask it. Let's just practice the deflection phrase on its own out loud right now. Ready?
What about you? Surviving the week?
Try it again. Keep it light. Keep the rhythm bouncy.
What about you? Surviving the week?
Now, we're going to perform the ultimate test. We're going to combine step 1, the anchor phrase, and step 2, the deflection, into one seamless stream of fluent English. This is the entire escape hatch built into one sequence. You're going to use the busy anchor and then immediately pass the ball. The whole sequence will sound like this. It's been pretty non-stop. What about you? Surviving the week?
Notice the pacing. You don't rush it. You don't say it all in one desperate breath. You say the anchor phrase, you take a natural half-second pause, and then you ask the deflection question. It shows complete control of the conversation. You're not running away from the interaction. You're managing it like an absolute professional.
Let us run the full simulation. This is the big moment. You are in the kitchen. It is Tuesday morning. The lights are bright. The coffee is pouring. A colleague you barely know walks in, stands next to you, and drops the question. You are not going to translate. You are going to deploy the sequence out loud right now. Hey, busy week?
Speak out loud with us. It's been pretty nonstop. What about you? Surviving the week?
Do you feel how powerful that is? You just handled a completely unscripted, real-world social interaction using less than 15 words. You did not use a single complex grammar tense. You did not have to search for specialized vocabulary. You just used rhythm, feeling, and strategy. Let us run it one more time, but this time let us use the neutral anchor phrase. Let us say your week is just normal, but you still want to pass the ball back. The sequence will be, "Not too bad, just the usual. What about you? Surviving the week?"
I will be the coworker again. Deep breath, drop those shoulders, here I come. Hey, how is your week going?
Speak out loud. "Not too bad, just the usual. What about you? Surviving the week?"
That was fantastic. By doing this, you are completely shifting your mindset from being a passive, terrified student trying to pass a grammar test into an active, confident participant in real life. You are taking control of the silence.
And taking control of the silence is exactly how you build real fluency. Fluency is not the ability to speak perfectly for an hour. Fluency is the ability to handle a 10-second surprise interaction without letting panic take over your brain. When you know you have these tools in your pocket, your overall anxiety about speaking English will drop significantly. You will actually stop dreading the coffee machine. You might even start looking forward to it, just so you can practice dropping your anchor phrases and watching how effectively they work.
The next time you find yourself trying to translate a massive paragraph about your feelings or your schedule, I want you to mentally hit the pause button. Remind yourself, they do not want the facts. They want the vibe. Give them the vibe, pass the ball, and let yourself relax. You have worked far too hard on understanding English to let a casual morning greeting make you feel inadequate.
To make sure this stays in your mouth and not just in your head, I have a specific challenge for you. Tomorrow at work, or during your next language exchange online, I want you to intentionally use the vibe-first response when someone asks about your day. Do not translate a single fact. Just deploy the phrase, pass the ball back, and see how much easier the conversation feels.
You have all the words you need right now. You just need to trust them enough to let them fall out naturally. Good luck out there, and we'll see you next time.